Mr. Hong, I have to tell you, this is an absolute honor for me. I don't want to exclude. This is the most legendary group of people I've ever had the pleasure of speaking with. I love all of you. The show's amazing. But I do have to tell you, Big Trouble in Little China, my all-time favorite 80s movie, and Lo Pan scared the absolute out of me as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Just the light coming out of his mouth and his eyes. I loved it so much. Now, Gremlins, don't scare me like that. Gremlins also scared a ton of children in the 80s. So I'm curious, what's a story or a movie that scared each of you when you were kids?
Oh, wow.
I was obsessed with The Exorcist, and people were fainting in The Exorcist, and I was too young to go see it, and I was dying to see it. And so that would be my answer to that.
Oh, so you never, I couldn't.
I did eventually see it, but not as soon as it came out. I was dying to see it. I was really into all that kind of possession and occult and stuff.
Exorcist is the first movie I ever watched when I moved out on my own and I lived by myself. It was the first movie I watched in my apartment by myself. Worst decision I ever made my whole life.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Very good movie.
Well, so, Gremlins it's a creature that is born out of the evil thoughts of these writers that I don't see how they can find these characters and make them come alive, So it's wonderful that there are artists and producers, directors that can create things like that for us to see. But it's, in a sense, it's evil, but then it's nice on the other hand, too. So that's what captured me.
Just like us.
Yeah. And so, Chris, since you're into comic books, I'm going to come out with the James Hong comic book series. I'll do takeoffs on Lo Pan and all that stuff. So as I said before, email me when you get a chance, find out from somebody my email address, and I'll tell you more about it.
I would love that. I would absolutely love to talk to you about that, especially if it means that there's going to be a rematch between you and Wayne Campbell. I would just freak out about that. That'd be awesome. Now, what about you, Ming-Na? You didn't tell me what yours was.
Being scared, I loved all kinds of I don't like scary movies as much now, but definitely Gremlins scared me. Definitely. There was this movie about like this babysitter. What it was called, when a stranger calls or something.
Oh, When a Stranger Calls, that was scary.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh my gosh, I just like suspenseful scary, and things that I used to love scary movies, but now that I'm a mom, I'm less. But the great thing about Gremlins is that you can be scared, but at the same time laugh. There's a lot of humor involved in the original film, as well as the animation right now. They really maintain the feel that captivated the audiences back in the 80s.
Now, I need all of you to be as honest and unbiased as possible, but if you could have an adorable pet sidekick, would you choose Gizmo or Baby Yoda?
Oh, there's some similarities to those two, huh? With the big ears. A little bit. One has more.
I think I might choose Baby Yoda because I know what Baby Yoda's going to become, and so then who wouldn't want to have that around?
Right.
I would.
And I don't have to worry about the rules.
The rules,
right?
Yeah, that's tough. The rules.
Sorry, Baby Yoda. Sorry, Max.
Yeah.
Yeah, since we're doing the publicity junket.
I would pick Gizmo.
I want a Gizmo.
Good for you, James. Okay.
Yeah. It's such a cute, lovable creature that you can't help it, it makes you smile. It makes you have joy with him. So I would favor that character. It has more dimension.
That's right.
Yeah, I think Gremlins is probably, I'm like Gizmo's cuter, but the rules, it's just too much responsibility for me. I couldn't do that. Now, Ming-Na, I do have to ask, as a proud employee of ComicBook.com, I'm being forced to ask this, but I know you can't tell me anything, but do you feel like we've seen the last of Melinda May?
Oh, thank you. No, I don't. I really can't tell what's going to happen, but I do know that having played her for 7 years, 22 episodes every year, it's like, I miss being her. You know, as an actor, we give birth to these characters, and they become a part of us. They're in our DNA, and I do miss her being. So I hope one day that I get to bring Agent May back. That would be
I miss her as well. That would be wonderful. Just last question, BD, given the chance, do you think Dr. Wu would create a dinosaur gremlin hybrid?
Of course.
You didn't even hesitate.
Just give me the grant and I'll do it. I'm ready. Of course. Like there's no, like, when has he ever held back? I don't think he has. I think if he had a chance, he would. Who wouldn't want to see what that was? And that's the thing. Everyone would be saying to him, yes, do it. And then he does it, and then they blame him, which is not fair at all.
Yeah.
I don't think.
For the record, I wouldn't want to see that. That just sounds terrifying. Guys, this was so much fun for me. Thank you very much. Mr. Hong, again, yeah, I will reach out so we can talk about your comic book. I love all of you so much. This was such a pleasure, and I love the show. I've been watching it with my son. We love it. So thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you,
Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
First off, I love the show, man. I thought it was great. It's, as a lifelong Gremlins fan, it's been too long. So I was excited for something. Now, Gremlins terrified me as a kid, and it terrified lots of kids in the 80s. So it made me think, like, what's a movie that scared you as a little kid?
So one of the reasons I desperately wanted to do this project was, as a 10-year-old boy, when Gremlins came out, I had an incredibly visceral cinematic experience watching it with my parents. My parents were like, what have we brought him to? In that way that some parents kind of go, yeah, this is a kid's movie. And then you go in and then they're like, this isn't a kid's movie. And I'm just there going, what is happening? My mother said at the time, she said, you're gonna have nightmares for months. And it was more like years. The movie to me was such an important, enormous moment in my childhood. Because it was sort of groundbreaking in a way that I never seen a movie that juggled those tones of kind of true, at times, horror and real comedy in such a deft way that I was like, oh, I don't even know what I'm watching, but I'm exhilarated by it. And then when this came along and they said, you know, it's going to do an animated series for family viewing, I was like, how are they going to land that tone? And I was so relieved to read it when I did, that it does juggle, and I think very deftly, to a large audience. It juggles those comedic moments, and it juggles those very dark undertones that I think you need. Given that children are now slightly more sophisticated in their palates, I was just relieved that they got the absolute essence of that movie.
Yeah, I think they nailed it, while also adding in all the fantastical elements of Chinese mythology and stuff. Like, did such a good job juggling the comedy with the darkness. Now, considering you play an evil sorcerer, how surreal was it to act opposite the greatest sorcerer who's ever lived? You know, Lo Pan himself, James Hong. That had to be amazing.
It was very sadly, because of scheduling, there were a lot of it I kind of had to do kind of alone. So I wasn't. I know, I was so bummed because I thought it was going to be a dream come true. So yeah, I was shooting Perry Mason at the time, so I was kind of in this nightmare where I just had to kind of do momentary recordings where and when I could. But yeah, I mean, as box checks go, you know, that to me is like the true sorcerer, the only, you know, the OG.
Right. Lo Pan's incredible. Now, in addition to Lo Pan, I also found Riley Green to be very similar to Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat, what with the eating souls and all that stuff. So did you make that connection at all, or do you know who Shang Tsung is, right? Okay.
I was a lifelong fan of Mortal Kombat. Yeah, so I've never made that connection till now. And don't think that you won't read about that in every other press outlet other than your own.
That's amazing. Well, I thought he was just a perfect mixture of Lo Pan and Shang Tsung. I was like, this is great. I love this guy. Well, I love to hate him. That's what I love.
Well, I think that's the thing. If you're loving to hate the villain of the piece, job done.
Yeah, exactly. Now, out of everyone on the cast, who would be most likely to accidentally feed a Mogwai after midnight or get it wet?
Me. Purely because I'm such a dizzying klutz that everything goes wrong. Oh God, I don't want to be disparaging in any way. Also, I'm trying to remember the special cast members we're not supposed to talk about. Yeah, I'm gonna put myself forward for that just because I'm as clumsy as the day is long.
That's very noble of you to take that on.
Yeah.
That's now. I don't want you to be I want you to be unbiased. I want you to be completely honest with me. But if you could have an adorable pet sidekick, would it be Gizmo or would it be Baby Yoda?
Ooh. I think it'd be Gizmo. I find that I think I could live with the voice for longer.
I feel like Gizmo's more adorable than Baby Yoda, but I feel like Baby Yoda is less responsibility. That's
well, that is true. That is true. You're living on a knife edge for a long time with Gizmo, kind of knowing how bad things could go.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, knowing how clumsy I am, I should probably go with Baby Yoda.
I clearly had too much going on this morning that I thought of this. I was like,
I love it.
Baby Yoda or Gizmo? I'm not sure.
You've really thought about this. Yeah, you've thought.
I really did. I know. Now, as a Gremlins fan, knowing that it was so important to you, were there any specific Easter eggs that you've picked up on or seen, like watching the show back?
I kept waiting for the microwave, the explosion in the microwave, which never came, which just disappointed me enormously. I did push for
what a bummer 1920s Shanghai must have been. No microwaves.
I was like, what's the 1920s version of a microwave? Is it a boiling pot of water? Is that just too harsh? Yeah, I'm trying to think what the favorite ones. Oh God.
I don't even know if it's an Easter egg, but for me, it was just like, I just really enjoyed hearing that Gremlins score pick up in the theme song again. You know what I mean?
Because that was a real treat. The music I thought was incredible. In the same way the incorporation of kind of Chinese myth and legend, which has just been not necessarily an easy one to do. It's all very well to say, let's be culturally responsible and accurate and, include, that's all said and done. Actually deftly intertwining that with an entertaining piece, I think they've done with aplomb. But the music, they've just gone to the next level. Yes, I would thoroughly agree. The ode to the music is a special moment.
Yeah, I agree. As soon as it picked up, I like that first episode, I was like, man, I didn't realize how much I'd missed this. And, it was just great to see it again. Matthew, this was such a pleasure getting to talk to you. I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much. And I love the show. I have like 2 episodes left. I've been watching it with my son, so I'm excited to finish it up.
Nice. Enjoy. I'm loving the Flash Gordon poster.
We'll say what?
Loving the Flash Gordon poster.
Flash Gordon, this guy, I've interviewed him several times now, and the best thing that's ever happened in my life, I'm almost out of time, but I'll tell you this real quick. I've interviewed him a few times, and I was in San Diego last year to do Top Gun Maverick, and I'm at the airport, I'm leaving, and there's this whistling in the bathroom. I went to the bathroom before I got my ticket. I'm washing my hands. There's this whistling in the bathroom, and then out of the stall walks Sam Jones. And I'm looking at him through the mirror, and I was like, is that Sam Jones that I hear back there? And he goes, is that Chris Killian I hear? And I was like, Flash Gordon knows my name. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Gordon's alive.
So good. This was such a pleasure, man. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me. I loved getting to talk to you, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks a million, Chris. You too.
Zach, it's so nice to meet you, man. Obviously, I'm a huge Gremlins fan, so this is an honor for me. Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. No, my pleasure.
So, I'm sure you've been answering Gremlins questions for a long, long time. So what's the one question you always get asked that you hope no one ever asks again?
Well, I have to tell you, there is no question that annoys me, because anytime somebody's interested in the franchise, that's a good thing. So I'll adjust your question just a little bit by saying, here are some of the most popular questions that I get over and over and over again. And let's just say occasionally it's a little bit challenging coming up with different variations of the answers. So the number one question by far, for whatever reason, is, was it fun doing the movie? I think people really want to picture me enjoying myself, or they want to picture themselves doing the movie and having an amazing time doing it. And happily, the answer to that question is yes, it was incredibly fun doing the first one. The second one too, although not as fun, because my part was all, the shooting schedule was very strange. I did like the first 3 weeks, and then I had like 6 weeks off, which is like a huge gap.
Mhm.
And then like the last 8 weeks I did, and then Phoebe hurt her knee when we were shooting it, and so that shut down production for like a couple of weeks, and it kind of dragged it all the way. We started in May and dragged it all the way into like mid-November towards Thanksgiving. So it kind of went on and on for a while. Everybody was a little bit burnt out by the end when you shoot something for close to 6 months. So that's question number one. And question number two is like, how did those things work? That's another one. Is there going to be a Gremlins 3? What was it like? What was Phoebe Cates like? Is a huge one. Not surprisingly, men almost overwhelmingly ask that question, although some women too. So those are some of the questions that I get. Those are probably the top 4 questions that I get. And, you know, I guess if Gremlins 3 went into production, then that would probably be a great thing, because then I could stop answering that question, when is there going to be a Gremlins 3? Because I've been answering that question now since 1991.
Okay, well, you've just knocked off a whole lot of my questions, so this is going to be a much easier interview. No, I can tell from your answer that you're clearly a very, very nice guy, and thank you for answering all those questions over and over and over again. Now, I will say that Gremlins terrified me as a child, terrified a lot of kids, and
Sure.
so it made me wonder, what's a movie that scared you as a kid?
Well, you know, I'm going to be 60 in February, as frightening as that sounds. So, I mean, most of my films that would have scared me, you know, are mostly 60s and 70s movies. So certainly the earliest movie I saw that terrified me when I was about 5 was The Blob with Steve McQueen. Now you got to remember, this is a 5-year-old seeing it. It's not a 20-year-old seeing it. When the scene where the old man pokes the blob with the stick, and then it comes up the stick, and then he sort of turns his hand to avoid it, and the blob goes onto his arm and sticks onto his arm, and like starts essentially dissolving and devouring his arm. That freaked me out when I was 5 years old. Absolutely. I think I'm almost certain I ran out of the room. I remember where I was too. I was at my best friend's house, and we were watching, I'm a New Yorker, and we were watching on Channel 9, which is a Secaucus, New Jersey channel, or maybe it was channel, I don't know, I can't remember which channel it was, but it was Chiller Theater. And that was a late 60s, early 70s thing. And you can go on YouTube and see it. They have a 6-fingered hand that comes out of the swamp and goes, Chiller, and it has the words Chiller in front of it, and the hand kind of picks up the letters and eats them. And that terrified me as a kid too, the idea that some disgusting 6-fingered hand come out of the swamp. So, you know, I've been watching horror movies literally since kindergarten, and they've always freaked me out. Day of the Triffids. I remember seeing The Exorcist when it came on cable in 1976. That freaked me out. Yeah, I mean, those are a few pretty good ones.
Yeah, those are some great ones. My grandma was showing me horror movies way before I should have been watching them.
Oh,
now,
for sure.
Is it just me, or does Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai make the opening 10 minutes of Gremlins so much more sad? Like, I didn't really think about it until after I watched Secrets of the Mogwai, but now I'm like, that kid gave away Mr. Wing's lifelong supernatural pet for like $200. I have a mini poodle that cost me $500, you know? So I don't know. What do you think about that?
It leads more credence to the first movie, because you go, does he really care that much that he would come all that way to find him? And the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm. Now,
he does.
Now, I know you mentioned earlier about Gremlins 3. So I don't want to ask you when Gremlins 3 is going to happen or any of that stuff, but just for fun, and because we haven't got it yet, what do you think Billy would be up to today, 30 something years later?
Well, I think that question almost has been answered in the Mountain Dew commercial, where you see he's sitting on the couch, and if you look closely on his vest, he has a Peltzer Inventions logo on his vest. And so he's taken over his dad's business. And my guess is he's probably, because remember, when he's working for Mr. Clamp, he's a graphic designer.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is he's moved from graphic design to invention design and make it into blueprints. And it's not really very far to move from architectural plans to blueprints for inventions. So my guess is that he has the same kind of visual sense as his father had, and no offense to Hoyt Axton's character, but my guess is that Billy is probably is able to, shall we say, close the deal and make a product that actually works, as opposed to his dad, which kind of, always seems to miss the mark a little bit.
Yeah, he's not squirting toothpaste all over himself and so on and so forth. Now, obviously I'm just an 80s child through and through, and you mentioned Gremlins 2 earlier, and I actually love Gremlins 2. And I grew up a giant Hulkamaniac. So I think if memory serves me correct, you guys didn't have a scene together, but I was curious if you met Hulk Hogan while you guys were filming.
I did not. They shot that on a separate day, and I think they almost shot it as kind of an afterthought. When they came up with the idea that they were going to break the film and do the break the fourth wall thing, they needed a kind of interstitial thing to connect the two. And so I don't recall, you'd have to ask Joe, I don't recall them shooting that during our original shooting schedule. My feeling is it was added on later, but I could be wrong about that.
Well, you probably would remember meeting Hulk Hogan if you'd met him
Oh,
there.
no, I didn't. I definitely did not meet him.
Gotcha. Well, Zach, I'm out of time. This was such a pleasure getting to meet you and talk to you, and I love the series, and I'm excited for Gremlins to be coming back. So thank you for taking the time. Hi guys, it's nice to meet you, and I love the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. As I'm an 80s kid, so I mean Gremlins through and through for me. So it's been way too long since we've gotten anything from Gremlins. Now, as a kid, it terrified me, and it terrified a lot of children in the 80s. And so I just want to know, what's a movie that scared each of you when you were a child?
Oh. Goodness.
I just talked about this, so should I go first?
Go first.
I mean, Gremlins scared the crap out of me as a kid, because I was afraid of the air vents. Like when I used to cover up my air vents because I thought that one of the Gremlins would come out of it. But Raptors from Jurassic Park and then E.T., I was so scared of E.T. as a kid. So basically, just everything Spielberg scared the crap out of me.
I despised zombies. I hated zombies so much.
Wow.
The scariest thing in the world for me when I was younger was zombies. It was just like I was scared by Game of Thrones. Like that sounds.
You were watching Game of Thrones
as a kid?
No, because
yeah.
I just saw like bits and pieces of it, right? So I was just like, and like the Frostwalkers or whatever they're called, they scared the crap out of me.
I was curious what gave you this zombie like fear, like this deep-rooted fear of zombies. Like what was it? Was it Game of Thrones?
Probably that's where it all started, maybe. I mean, it's just zombies in general. I mean, now I don't really care. I find them funny.
Gotcha. What about you, Gabriel?
I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but Monster House was a movie that really, really scared me.
I love Monster House.
Yeah,
so
Monster
it's so good.
Wow. But yeah, as a kid, that was a no-go.
That's a great answer. Now, out of everyone on the cast, who would most likely accidentally feed a Mogwai after midnight or get it wet?
Isaac.
What?
That
is so messed up.
Hesitation.
That is so messed up. I was thinking too, man.
You can still answer, Isaac.
I mean, I have no response. I can't fight.
All right.
Your Honor, I plead guilty.
I won't tell you who else has said Isaac every time I ask this question now. We'll just keep it to ourselves.
Have other people?
Why me, man? I'm getting targeted, dude.
Now, I do need you guys to be honest and completely unbiased, but if you could have an adorable pet sidekick, would you rather have Gizmo or Baby Yoda?
Oh. Can we have both?
Yeah, I do want both. I'll be honest.
Don't be selfish, guys. You can only have one really awesome, sweet pet sidekick.
I'd just go Baby Yoda purely for the fact that he could bring me waters without, making a mess. He could just, here's your water. And I'm just like, thanks.
Also, if he spills it, then you're not in all kinds of trouble.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Less maintenance.
That is facts. That is facts.
What about you guys? You got to say, AJ, you got to say.
I got to say Gizmo, but now that you've made that point that he can't be around water, I mean,
I do think that like Gizmo's more adorable, but I think that Baby Yoda's way more less responsibility.
But you also have to remember Baby Yoda is basically like a grandpa.
Yeah, that's true. He's like 50 years old. And...
He's not really a baby. He's a baby in a sense of his kind, but he's also like a freaking 300 years old or something like that.
Yeah, I'm just constantly hanging out with this 90-year-old man.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, but I mean, if you can't grow past a foot tall, you're always a baby. I'm sorry. Doesn't matter how old you get.
All the foot tall people out there do not like that remark.
Respect to the foot tall people.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry, guys. I also apologize. Now, Isaac, obviously, Mr. Wing is an old man in the original Gremlins, but were there any like traits or characteristics that you took from Key Luke's performance and incorporated into your version of Sam?
I mean, not specifically. I think what I really focused on was actually just being Sam himself as he was like younger than focusing on who he was going to be in the future. Because, I mean, it is basically towards the end of the season, right? I'm still only like, I'm not even in my teens yet. So it's like a, 60, 70 year time gap until I become that old man that Sam Wing is. So, not specifically, I didn't look for any references, but I probably should have. Maybe that would have been a little helpful. But I'm more focused on who Sam was at the moment.
I totally understand that and agree. I was curious about that because I was like, I don't know if there's anything that he could have taken from.
Yeah.
I do know that this series makes that first 10 minutes of Gremlins so much more sad. It's like, I never thought about it before, but now after watching the series and then going back and watching the original movie again, I was like, wait a second. He just sold his grandpa's supernatural lifelong pet for $200. My mini poodle cost $500. Like, what are you talking about? Now, there are some real legends that work with you guys on this, from James Hong and Ming-Na to Joe Dante. Not to mention like some of the cameos on the show that we're not supposed to talk about. Was there any one specific that you all were excited to meet?
You know what's hilarious about animation sometimes? You don't get to meet the people that you work with or that is on the cast list. So this is probably maybe my third time meeting AJ and my fourth time meeting Isaac.
Yeah.
I personally haven't got a chance to meet any of our guest stars or the legends that we are on our cast list. Hopefully at the premiere we get to hang out a little bit, but yeah, no, I haven't met anybody.
Oh no.
I saw James
same exact story.
That was it. I saw him leave. Like I held the door open for him. That's it.
That's got to be the coolest thing in the world. I love Big Trouble in Little China. So James Hong is like king to me. That guy probably scared me more than Gizmo did. Like the light in his mouth and everything just freaked me out. Now, did any of you guys ever get to watch any of the Gremlin ripoffs? Did you see any of those?
Like Critters or
like there's so many. There's Critters,
Ghoulies?
Munchies, Ghoulies. Yeah. Troll, the worst movie ever made.
Troll 2, you mean?
Oh yeah, Troll 2. It is Troll 2. That's actually like now they're just goblins, but they still call it Troll.
Yeah, it's Nilbog. It's goblin spelled backwards. I mean, yes, I have, but I also am a Mystery Science Theater 3000 kid, and like that's just in my blood. So yeah, Critters, all that stuff. But Gremlins is clearly, no offense to Critters, the superior, or Ghoulies.
I think you can say that and safely not offend anybody. I think we all know that Gremlins is the king of the puppet monsters. Like there's it doesn't even get close. Like right, like
I think
Critters is probably
the character that are the little puppet things in the
Well,
cages.
what was
Boglins,
that?
right? Boglins, Moglins.
I don't remember those.
They were like these little ugly puppet creatures. Sorry, now I'm getting real like 80s. I think Boglins, right? Anyway,
I remember hobgoblins.
Was it
Hobgoblins are the best.
I'm looking up. Excuse me. As I look
As a
up-
fantasy nerd, I love hobgoblins. I think they're cool.
And you wouldn't like this movie, I don't think, unless you just want to laugh for like an hour and a half straight.
Boglins,
But
it's a thing. Sorry.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Guys, this was so much fun getting to talk to you, and I really love the series. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I've been watching it with my son, and I think we have like 2 episodes left. So it's been great. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, dude.
Guys, it's so nice to meet you, Z. It's finally nice to see you. And Mr. Dante, you are a legend. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me. Now, Gremlins, like all 80s children, terrified me as a kid and terrified lots of children back in the 80s. So what's a movie that scared each of you as a little kid?
All right, I got 2. I'll happy to jump in to give you guys time to think.
Do it.
So one is Gremlins, because I saw it in the theater as a 6-year-old, and it absolutely, my older cousins
6 years
took me-
old. That's child
Yeah.
abuse.
Yeah, you can blame my older cousins. I had teenage cousins who were going to see it. I was with them for the day, so they just thought nothing of bringing me along. Like, it had that cute thing, the cute Gizmo you've seen the pictures of. So I was like, sure. Yeah, nightmares, totally, especially the idea that my mom was basically going to have to kill invading gremlins to save my life on a regular basis was kind of what I was left with. But the other one, though, Superman 3, from the same era, the woman who gets kind of eaten and turned into a computer, eaten by a computer, turned into a computer, also nightmares for months.
Nice.
Yeah,
What about you guys?
For me, it was Giant Ants. This movie, Them, that came out in 1954. And they made the same sounds as the crickets in my backyard. And they and then there was another one called Tarantula, which was about a giant spider. And at one point, the spider was big, but he was small enough to fit under your bed. And so the idea of putting your legs over the bed became untenable because there would be a giant spider down there to grab you.
I think the thing I was most scared about when I was a kid was walking in on my parents watching a Chinese vampire movie, like a Hong Kong 80s Chinese vampire movie. I think there's a bunch of them.
It's a lot.
So I don't really remember which one it was, but they were all hopping in a line. And we actually got to put some of them into the Gremlins show. But at the time it was terrifying. I mean, it was also, I think the movie is called Mr. Vampire, which is not the scariest title, but I assure you it was very scary.
I don't know. That could be pretty scary. Mr. Vampire. The only thing scarier would be Dr. Vampire, I would think. But
Like, Mr. Vampire was my dad. Please call me Vampire. Yeah.
I think my trifecta was Gremlins, Child's Play, and Big Trouble in Little China. All movies I probably shouldn't have watched when I was like 5, but I did. So here we are. Speaking of, because I am a giant fan of Big Trouble in Little China, and you guys have James Hong on the show. Are there any Lopan Easter eggs that I should be aware of? Because I saw Gremlins, I saw some Mortal Kombat, but I wanted to see if there was any Big Trouble in Little China.
I think that there's a little hand gesture that got
Nice.
snuck in.
That's awesome. Now,
And we also have an Easter egg for each one of James Hong's other 900 credits in the show. So keep your eye out.
I can't wait to see the time travel episode. Or it's multiverse, not time travel. I don't want to get too spoilerish, but there's a new rule for Gizmo in Secrets of the Mogwai. Were there any other new rules that you guys were considering that you ended up cutting for whatever reason?
It was really that one rule because we wanted to make sure that there was so much that was going to be centered around Gizmo and make sure that he wasn't just kind of like a passive participant. He's already in a box and can't be exposed to bright light. So we really wanted to make him the center of what everybody wanted from him. But we were really lucky in that Amblin and Joe and Warner Brothers encouraged us to really delve into Mogwai mythology and expand the mythology.
Now, I also want to say AJ does an outstanding job as Gizmo, but was there ever any discussion to bring back Howie Mandel?
I don't
Not
think
really.
Howie wanted to do it. He
Yeah.
just, I think it was been there, done that, I think, for him.
Yeah.
Howie, you son of a. No, I'm just playing. I do love me some Howie Mandel, though. Big fan of Little Monsters back in the day, too. Now, I need you guys to be honest and unbiased, but if you could have an adorable pet sidekick, would you rather have Gizmo or Baby Yoda?
Shame on you.
I knew that was my hum and hesitation was just knowing that what you may unlock from Joe.
Joe's gonna jump through the computer and punch you in the face.
This is actually Joe's eating after midnight. You will unlock his evil Mogwai.
If Joe punches me, I will consider it an honor.
But yeah, Gizmo all the way.
Team Gizmo.
Oh, are you kidding?
I love it. I love it. Now, Joe, I do want to ask you, what do you think was the worst of the Gremlin ripoffs? Was it Munchies, Ghoulies, Troll, Hobgoblins? There's so many.
Oh, Hobgoblins is pretty bad. To be fair, everybody was trying to do what we were doing on less money. Mm-hmm. And I think Critters is probably the best one because it's got the Chiodo brothers and they're very talented guys. But the editor of Gremlins was Tina Hirsch, and she directed Munchies, the first Munchies movie. Mm-hmm. And talk about a low budget movie. I mean, they couldn't afford really any monsters, so the monsters are like clothing remnants. They don't seem to have any heads or tails or anything. It's just a bunch of clothing wrapped up and thrown at people. It was just not good.
Now, I'm sorry for all of these silly surface level questions. I'm really trying to avoid spoilers.
These are great.
Thank you. Out of everyone on this cast, who would be most likely to accidentally feed a Mogwai after midnight or get it wet?
Well, I have a guess, but Z, you go first. You were gonna.
I mean, Isaac's only like 12 years old.
I was gonna say Isaac all the way. He's incredibly talented, but I also know, he's got the youthful energy that will only cause chaos.
That's amazing. What about you, Joe? Who do you think? Who's your guess?
L.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Now, Joe, I'm sure there's a lot of people asking about Gremlins 3 and when we're going to get a live action sequel and all that.
Well, hopefully they won't do that anymore.
It's just a matter of time, right? I feel like eventually it's gonna happen. And all I want is for you to promise me that the Gremlins will remain puppets.
I can't guarantee that I'll have anything to do with it. So I can't make that promise.
Okay, well, I guess I'll just get off here sad then. That's fine. But I appreciate your honesty. That's very nice of you. I do have I got another interview I have to go to, but this was such an honor for me.
Another interview. What could be more important?
I'm going to talk to Isaac and AJ and Gabriel.
Yay!
In
that's good.
1 minute. So
tell them we don't trust. Tell Isaac we don't trust him around a Gremlin.
Exactly.
I will. Yeah, I will. I'll absolutely share that message.
See if his voice has changed since the last time we.
Also, I don't have a question for this, Joe, but I just also want to thank you for The Burbs. It's one of my other favorite movies. I don't know if I'll get a chance to talk to you again and tell you that, but I love The Burbs so much. Underrated. It is so underrated.
It was, the worst reviews I ever got.
Well, they were idiots back then.
I know. They didn't know what they're talking about.
They didn't know what they were talking about. But you guys are all amazing. I love talking to you guys. Thank you for this. It's been way too long for something for Gremlins, and I'm very happy to have it. And like I said, I've been watching it with my son. It's been great.
Oh, cool.
Awesome. So thank you guys very much for that. And you guys have a great rest of your day.